Good evening. It's March the 9th, 2025, and it's the Wall Street Weekly Wrap Up with your host, John Newquist. We're still recovering from that massive earnings week. I want to think I looked at a lot of earnings this week, too. It was like this tidal wave of earnings. You kind of wish you could just take, okay, each sector, you get one earning, okay, transportation, you all got to report this week. It'd be so much easier. A lot of people would like it. But let's get into it. We have a lot of other news, that was important, and we got some portfolio changes in the future. But our next gen is minus 5.4. Went up just a slight. Remember, we were at just a 5 something before, and now it's up a little bit. We're still behind the S&P 500, but we're ahead again. Sell Monday. Oh, we're going to tax the tariff 100% on Halloween movies. I'm telling you, it's like uh, he wakes up on a weekend and thinks, how could I get another tariff in? And of course, the market doesn't like it, goes down, and then maybe it comes back during the week. So as you can see, the S&P's a little bit about 1 point, almost 2% ahead. We lost a little ground on the S&P, well ahead of the Nasdaq, and of course, man, that Russell. I just look at the Russell, and it's up there, and this is a negative trend. Will it break? I'm seeing a lot of trend breaks. One thing you'll see this week is the downtrend will be broken by a lot of stocks, and that's good news. But will it stay? That's the real $1 million question and stuff. The 2-year notes at 3.8, so it's below 4. Oil finally got back above 60, and of course India and Pakistan doesn't help the global tensions because they're shooting missiles from India into Pakistan at the terrorist camps, is what the official story is. So anytime you get a kind of another war, the oil futures don't seem to like that, and how that will end, I don't know. Natural gas is above 4 again. It's past wintertime. It should be going below 3. I think it'll get down to 350 for sure, but we'll see. Shouldn't be that high in the summertime. Gold got up to 3,400, and I keep on looking at it. Man, this is a double top right here. Is it going to break through? This one of the things we're looking at is it's come a long ways. People are always saying, what do you think it's going to go to? I think the next goal. I mean, we already hit our goal. We said it was going to hit 3,400, and it did. We doubled our money from our previous investments in gold. So I've heard everything. I've heard people, oh, it's going to get 6,000. I don't know. I mean, our next target is probably 4,000. That's still, 15% more. And if gold was a stock, we were up quite a bit this year. And then silver hanging around in the 32s, and copper is above 450. That's all we look at is copper. Economy's good when copper's above 450 because that means we're building things. And ExxonMobil came out with earnings again. Revenues, $83 billion in revenue. Look at the earnings. I mean, it's just incredulous, Exxon and Mobil. And of course, the energy sector, we're going from, about over here, $100. And of course, oil's going to go over 100, So Exxon Mobil, it's kind of getting interesting. It's almost double the oil prices, but not quite. But it's in a downtrend. All the energy stocks are in a downtrend. Microsoft, a lot of people are dropping Google, but we're keeping Google because they are leaders. Number 2 in autonomous driving. Number 2, I think, in search. A lot of people talk about Grok, but I mean, I haven't been on Grok in 6 months, so I can't tell you if it's that good now, or not. I just didn't like it when I went on it, and I am not going to pay $40 a month for Grok. Sorry, Elon. But Azure went, the data centers went from 31 to 33. So that's increasing growth in the data centers. Amazon and Google both dropped 2%. So who took share? Well, Microsoft in the Azure data center. And of course, that's why it's been popping, and it's holding the pop, as they say. I mean, that's a pretty big jump. You go from, 395 to 438. That's a good jump, 10% jump, and considering it's a $3 trillion type of a company, that's pretty amazing. So people like it, and that's going to be good news for a while until the next quarter rolls around and everybody watches it, So I keep on thinking, I still have Amazon withdrawals. I remember we sold Amazon, but We took our profits, and we're going to pay thousands in taxes, but it's all right. You know, I just think Amazon's got a lot of problems. The ports are still having problems. Jensen Huang's said AI will be part of the social structure, and he thinks it's a mistake not to have China. You know, again, you got a lot of people, they want to do it, but I thought it was interesting. The hyperscalers are intelligence factories. They're going to be able to do stuff. They're going to be able to think, and eventually, as people are predicting, there'll be this super intelligence where the 2028, 2030, 2032, the computers will be smarter than anybody, and they can do things faster than anybody and can think onto itself. So, pretty interesting. And again, Bloomberg reported this week that Trump may not hold on these AI restrictions, which helps NVIDIA. Remember, NVIDIA was the last one to break the trend. Look at it this week. It broke out a little bit, just a little bit. But this is a good sign. So will this happen? I don't know. He wakes up in the weekend on a bad day, maybe not. It's like, whatever he says doesn't matter anymore. Just like whatever it does, that's what I look. I look at the actions. Forget the rhetoric. Clorox has been a downtrend again. When we talk about, we're going to probably go into more foreign ETFs because of, Gundlach popped a statistic that I thought was pretty amazing, and I'd been through this stuff, so we'll talk about it at the end. But I think Clorox is going to be probably the last week with us. We'll probably sell out, and then we're going to underweight certain areas and just keep the best of the best. Flutter, an English company, number one for sports betting, total dollar-wise. DraftKings came out and said the favorites winning the Final Four made them money because everybody was betting the underdogs. And I says, no, I was betting the favorites. That's why I did good. I was like, I think I posted on Threads. I was like at the 99.6 or 98.9, something really high in the top 2% on the March Madness and stuff. And I just bet the favorites, and it did well. I think plus 17, but you got, of course, you take bigger juice hits. But revenue rose. I thought that was low. I was expecting double digits. So to me, that's a disappointment on the revenues. I thought they would do a little bit better. Again, the chart's been kind of going sideways, as you can see, since October, and a little bit up, a little bit down, but it's essentially moving. The 200-day moving average and the 50 and the 20 are all right at each other. So we're in a pivot point, and we'll see. Football's coming up. They're going to hope the favorites don't win and kill them again. I say you bet it. If the odds and the AI can pick the computer and it's going to have a better average than anything else, people are going to follow it. ARM, an English company. One of the things you're going to hear me talk about is which ones are foreign we're going to keep. As we unload some of the U.S. companies and get more foreign exposure, I think maybe 25% foreign exposure. We got like Roke and ARM and Taiwan Semiconductor, so we have some, but I would like to get it a lot higher, maybe 25%. Not a lot, but I think it's going to change. Look at this, 33%. You act like this stock was, nothing. Oh yeah, since October sideways, 33%. That's amazing. So that's why I said they're one of our three kings on the future of AI. They make the processor, and we're going to keep them. And it goes up and then sideways for a long time, and then it jumps up. So when does it want to do that? We don't know. But again, everything's in the flux right here. So OPLX, we just added it for a trade.
This is a reminder. Ethereum.
Oh, Ethereum broke 2,000. Alexa, stop.
This is a reminder. Ethereum.
Doesn't listen, but yeah, Ethereum. We actually bought some the other day and added to the position, but it finally got out. It finally got up to 2,000. If you did a Bitcoin to Ethereum, when Bitcoin was 67,000, Ethereum was at 4. Now it's almost 103,000 on Bitcoin, and Ethereum's at 2, so it's half of what it was. And they're going to, all these ETFs are coming out, so I think you got to be putting in some money in Ethereum. Not a lot. Remember, crypto, if we just look at stocks, is about 2.5 2.5% of all the total. That's fine. We bought OPLX. Again, with OPLX, of course, I got the wrong chart for OPLX, but it was at $1.33. It broke out. I don't know what chart I put up here. Holy smoly. But revenues fell, which is fine. But the reason we buy it, it's best in breed. I think of all the hair care products, OPLX is the best. Also, not very cheap. But as people who look and care about hair, which is millions of people, they will pay the extra money if they have the extra money. So it's there for a trade. We only got 24% of our position, so it's not like a full position, but we're just looking at it. I think we can double. I would not be surprised to see this get bought out at 3 or 4. So that's my target. I think we will double our money in OPLX, but we'll see. You can have the best idea, and the market decides what it wants to do. TKO revenues flat. I mean, they're doing great. I watch. I'm not a WWE fan, but I mean, I watch the UFC, and they're selling out. They make, $18 million every time they go to a venue outside Las Vegas. I mean, it's just incredible, and that's not bad considering the salaries are not even $1 million in some of these, promotions. So, lots of money, and ESPN Plus is expired. They got it. They continue. They're negotiating. This is where you're going to see the stock pop, because it isn't going to be the same thing. They want the ratings. This is solid. A lot of discussion. Is Netflix going to get it? Disney going to get it? Disney, ESPN. We don't know. I mean, Amazon could be in there. I mean, this is solid revenues, solid ratings. Netflix is talking about a non-pay-per-view model, is what I've been hearing, and that would be shocking. But that's it. You're charging so much money a month. Add this. I mean, you got people that watch this every week like me. So, these are people who have some money, not rich, but they have money, and they spend money, and they gamble. And, if you tie in gambling to the site and everything else, I can see a lot of revenues on it. So, the conservative, they're going in there, and they're thinking, well, it's not going to be that much. And if you do, if you think, okay, quarter 1.2 times 4 is 4.8, and fiscal 25. They're not looking at a lot, but we're already in fiscal 25. So I think a good stock. Is it the best time to buy? Well, it'd been nice to buy at 140, but really 160 versus 140 in the long scheme is not bad. The trend is up. That's good. It broke out of a downtrend. That's even better. So if you want to nibble, that's a good time to buy it. I always watch, what's happening in the consumer, and jobs report's good. 4.2% is good. Unemployment. I mean, it's not 5, it's not 6, but what percentage of borrowers are late? 6%. That's 1 out of every 16 Americans are 60 days late on a car payment. I'm never going to be late. I always pay it. It's auto deducted, but you take it, you get any money, it goes right to the auto, and then other stuff. And but this is an issue, and this is an issue I watch, and it's the highest on record. So if you can't pay your auto bill on time, there'll be a point where they will go grab the car, but really, the prices are up there. The tariffs are high. All used cars are high. Boy, this is going to be a totally ugly summer for vehicles until they settle the tariffs. Right now, we only have the Ukraine mineral deal in UK. That's it, 2 deals. So a lot of issues in here. I just try to, because I read so many earnings, I jump at companies when I see, wow, revenues jumped 48%, upside guidance, which is really rare. Like 1 out of every 20, 1 out of every 30 companies this quarter are giving upside guidance. What do? Well, they do organ transplant market. I don't know much about it. I mean, I had this on the radar, but man, when it came out with earnings, it popped up. Again, the time to buy it is when it breaks out. This is why you buy a breakout, because there's good news. We're done with the sellers. The sellers are all who've been selling and selling and selling and dumping, and the minute they get a little jump, they get out of it. Now we're done. Now we have just buyers. We have the regular holders and the buyers, and that's why the stock has a lot of movement to go up. The rumor is this gap will be filled. Well, dang it, it got filled right up here at 120. So, That's one of the truisms of stock markets that I always say. Well, you drop it down, and when it breaks out, it'll probably hit the gap, and now it is. So I look at it. I just don't know much about the organ transplant market. I hate to say that. I mean, I didn't know there was a lot of money in it. I mean, $500 million in it. Well, they're there. They're the leader. AMD, another breakout. These are good things. Good earnings, revenue 35%. Lisa Su is doing real well on this stuff.
This is a reminder. U.S. equities and foreign-owned equities.
Alexa, stop. What we're talking about is U.S.-owned equities. You typically are 100% of your portfolio. We got the China fund, and we got Flutter and Roche and a couple other foreign companies. I want to get the portfolio up to about 25% by the end of the second quarter. I'm not in a hurry. I just, not trying to be super defensive. And I think it's, with Gundlach's chart that I saw, it confirms what I've been talking about, a possible recession. Data segment, 57%. Well, Amazon's working with AMD because everybody wants the NVDA chips, but they're short. So they're trying to work with other companies like AMD who can make, the AI chips. Not as much as NVIDIA, maybe not as good as NVIDIA, but they can make them. And that's why I think, if we were out there in a full market and we weren't trying to get defensive, we would add AMD now. But we're going to keep our kings, Taiwan Semiconductor, NVIDIA, and ARM. And we're not going to add another one. Uber, it's because it's the number one ride share in the country. Lyft jumped a lot today. I think it went up 18%. But, 13% revenue growth. That's okay. Everybody wants to see how Google's Waymo and Uber partnership does, because I think Uber will do it well. Google just wants to get a pop of every percentage of anything that's got an autonomous vehicle using Waymo software. That's all Google wants, and then let Uber run all the business, and they just collect money. Keep up the software. Again, Uber, another breakout. These are what you want to buy. People don't want to buy breakouts because it's up near its high for the year. Well, that's when you want to buy it. If you want a stock to go 10 times what it is now, it's got to break out. If it doesn't break out, it never gets above what it was. So that's why I think that's a big mistake in investing, is that I don't want to buy it here. I want to wait till sometimes I'll never get back down there if it's a good stock. So when it breaks out, that's a good sign that you got, the sellers are done and you got some upside now. Disney, I just look at what, $23 billion in a quarter. Wow, that's not bad. 7% growth, it's okay. It's solid. It pays a dividend. And what I looked at, okay, 180 million people for Disney Plus and Hulu. That's not bad. That's pretty good. 2.5 million. That's good. And then Disney Plus, 1.4, and then theme parks. That's amazing. 13% in an economy that's slowing. I thought all this tourism stuff was going to be in there, but maybe the quarter is now when they won't come in from Canada and other ones. But they like their earnings. Look at this thing pop. Holy smokies, hasn't broke out. So, will it go? Well, it got up here, went back down, went up here. So, I don't know. Will Disney do it? I just don't know. If the parks see it drop because the foreigners are not coming, then that ain't going to be 13% next year. It'll be a lot lower. Novo Nordisk, Danish company, 17% increase, 18%. Lilly's almost double it. It's been in a negative channel, so I wouldn't buy it now. Again, would be something, they're both good. Equity, Ozempic and Wegovy and Lilly's products are good, and so are Novo Nordisk. They're both good. I would only get back in Novo Nordisk when it breaks out. That's just, what you mean. You look at the 100-day moving, not the 200-day moving average is 100. So if it breaks out at 75, it could go to 100. That's what we're in a situation. So don't look at this as a bad thing. It's in a negative trend. We just got to have some patience and just wait till it plays out. Palantir, boy, that's the darling. If we got the meme stock of 2025, that's it. It's not really a meme stock. It's a real company with real revenues that grew 39%. Now, they are getting contracts in a government that's declining in spending, which I thought is pretty amazing. But commercial revenue, 71%. That's a lot. Private companies. And any smart. I mean, I listen to Alex Karp and you know, when you want to buy it, well, not a PE of 512. That's obscene. You know, 80's high. You can buy a 512. You know, you could go from 117 to 70 in just a day or two. You know, why would you put yourself in that kind of risk reward? But it's got a legion of fans. They love Alex Karp. They like listening to him. He's like the new Elon. It could go up a lot, but the revenues are way, way up there. So I would never. If once you know PEs of 80s are crazy. You know, you have to have real confidence it's going to grow. And I mean, I know Palantir will do well. You know, but it's pricey, pretty pricey. Paylocity, Paylocity. You know, payroll software. I thought 13% increase, upside guidance. You know, payroll software. You know, just in areas shows you that people who make software can always make another version that's good. The only thing is, it looks great on the paper, but the revenues. I mean, the chart is pretty well a downtrend, and it's not broken out yet. So those are kind of examples not to buy. FIVN is cloud software. Oh, look at this. You know, good earnings, 13% revenue growth, upside. But look at the chart. You know, below the 200-day moving average. It's been floating around. It's not in an upside. Everything kind of bouncing off the lower trend line. But yeah, you could get up there. But again, we're not going to go after this one. We got, we got cloud storage like our hyperscalers, but you need a software. You don't need to get that much in that sector. Monolith Power, semiconductor power, electronic solutions for storage and computing. 39%. That's it. These are companies that broke out. Now, if you wanted to buy one, you wanted more semis, then this is one I would add because look at it, broke out. It's got great revenue numbers. Anytime you get in the 30s, you're in the top 5% on U.S. companies and stuff. So you're not talking about, oh yeah, we got 6%, 7%. We're talking a company that's lighting it on fire. It's doing well. It's growing well, and they make money. So that's not a bad company. Again, we don't want to overweight too much, if we think a recession is going to happen. I'm always amazed just sitting in Reddit. Now Reddit, like I said, up to $200, dropped in almost half. But these earnings revenues jumps, they're using them for AI. They've worked to deal with all the big AI companies, and that data that Reddit posts and all the stuff that people post is access on the search engine. So it gets more data, and of course it can be filtered to what's kind of true and not true. But 61% revenue, that's huge. That's just huge. It's not all advertising because I'm on Reddit once in a while. I really don't post too often, but to me it's just a chat board. It's no different than Facebook, and it really to me is not a sense of community. But if you're in a group like Fortnite, your community is the Fortnite community, so I understand it. Airbnb, the number one in the country. Look at this. This is like I call this the shotgun. Shoots up, shoots down, and where's it going to go? Nobody knows. This is the charts you don't like because what has it done? Well, we were up over here. We're down essentially in a year. We've been flat. If we just draw this across since October. Shoots up, great earnings. Look at earnings, way up here, comes back. Earnings are like, why? Because it only went 7%. The hotels, Marriott, Hilton, they're at 5. This is not good. This is telling me something's slowing down in the B&B area. The nights and experience went up 8%. Nothing great there. All of a sudden this is now becoming a flat stock, and I could see people getting out of it. I mean, it's not the growth that you want, not at 8%. Remember, if it's a technology-based company, we want at least double-digit growth, and I would not touch Airbnb. It could change. It all can, but I just think it could be bad if people are going to cut back visits. We're seeing Delta say the summer and the fall, the bookings are lighter than normal.
This is a reminder. Auto stocks.
Oh yeah, GM. I mean, we didn't report on GM and
This is a
other
reminder.
ones.
Auto stocks.
You know, the auto sector's a mess. You know, the tariffs are going to be held for now till he wakes up on the right side and he's happy. He might go down. They're lobbying heavy to get the parts. But way I got it is they want some kind of manufacturing here for the parts. They don't want some companies build here. Uh, you know, like I said, I watched Subaru and a couple other ones say, hey, if you're going to tax it this high for bringing parts from Korea or Japan, we're not going to build here. You know, we're not going to have this import tax. So, you know, the big companies have to have a deal with their country and they have to make something. 10% increase in auto parts, no big deal. But, you know, nobody knows what's going to happen. So, but Bitcoin, you know, I mean, I got 3 or 6 that we always talk about, you know. We should have bought it over here. I just remember I was telling you it could go down to 60. I could make a case that 60, one peak, could go, or 70, it could go down. It never quite got down to like 76, 74, and then it just shoots up. I mean, this is parabolic almost. I mean, look at this rise, almost like what this was. And so people are thinking, hey, do you think it'll break 110? It's crypto. We don't know. You know, it's in our portfolio. I just get to watch it go up, and I'm thinking, wow, look at this thing go. What I would think about is some of these altcoins, you know, Solana, Cardano are lagging the performance of Bitcoin since then. So if you want to play catch up, you might want to go with the altcoins. Just my advice. Don't go heavy. Remember, keep crypto at a certain percentage. You know, ideally gold's, you know, was 5% of our portfolio, but it's gone up so much. It's probably almost like from just the stocks and the physical assets. Forget real estate, you know. Gold is probably almost 10% of the portfolio because it's gotten so high with the market coming down. So, you know, portfolio to gold is kind of like wacky, but I don't think gold's going to drop. If the dollar drops, and it's been dropping, gold's going to be going up. So, you know, the recession issues, you know, I always look at it and you know, this is what I was coming up, you know. The unemployment rate's rising and then and it's above the 36-month moving average. So I think that typically leads to a recession. And then, of course, the yield curve is not inverted anymore. The 10 and 2, you know, the yield is higher on the 10 than the 2, and so it's not inverted. But what we get typically when it's positive after being inverted, remember, we didn't get the recession or the collapse like they were talking about, you know, one of the first times in history. But normally, when it gets positive, we do get a recession. So I've got 2 big indicators that indicate possible recession. Okay, so that's in there. Now, this all can change. A lot of this stuff is due to self-infliction with the stupid tariffs and uncertainty. But these are numbers that we watch. We got to look at history. Otherwise, why look at it at all, right? And then Gundlach, who I respect, and you know, he's expecting 4% inflation. Well, right now it's, you know, like 3. They can't get it to 2, 3.2, 3.6. It's not unexpected. I don't have an inflation target at the end of the year. I just think it's just going to be in the 3s. But you know, if he says 4, I respect him because he's been around as long as I've been doing in stocks and stuff. And but what he popped up was this chart, which I thought was amazing. The Nifty 50 bubble. This, you know, you had these 50 stocks in the 70. These were guaranteed to go up, and then it collapsed. I got to watch my mother trying to make living off the stock market, not a living, but you know, make extra income. And in this period here, where the U.S. equities collapsed a lot in a year, I mean, you were in this area right here for, you know, I call it the Netherlands, from 75 to about 82. I mean, it was brutally. You know, generally, all you did is buy the dividend stocks like oil, energy, and utilities. You know, I mean, it was bleak. Because you had to get the dividends because inflation was high. Oh man, those were nothing good in tech, nothing good in chemical, nothing good in health. It was just ugly. And of course, internet bubble. Now, what this is a U.S. equities versus the equities in the global area, and And as he said, the valuation of the U.S. stock market is double what it was the Nifty 50 peak. Double. Here we are. Right over here is Nifty 50. Here we are presently. So that's why I think if we want to beat the S&P 500, which is our goal every year, we got to expect a downturn like 2001, 2001, and 2003, and the Nifty 50 of the 70s bleak from 75 to 82. We could have that. I mean, it is right there. People are starting to move money out of the U.S. equity. We don't need to wait till they've done it, because then we could miss opportunities. But I'm looking at India, Germany, Mexico, Indonesia, Brazil, and Taiwan right now, and maybe buy one ETF for each one of these for the next 6 weeks, or next, by the end of the June, so we can get the foreign investment stocks up to about 25% of the portfolio. That means like Clorox would go. We'd go low in, materials. We just do one material stock, that kind of thing. And the reason I look at it is that if this isn't the case, if you hold tech, you were down 40% for 3 straight years, 40%. Nothing worked. Didn't matter. Nothing worked. And, your Dollar General was your best stock in those 3 years. That's why I kind of went back to Dollar General, because it's a recession, and it's going to be an ugly recession. And whatever they're going to try to do is going to be tough, not every recession is the same, and this is an issue, but it's double. You got to look at history. We got this one and these ones. We have 3 indicators that are pointing toward it, and if you don't prepare for it, and if the U.S. equities are going to drop possibly in half, I don't think it will. I really don't think it will. I don't think, but we could end minus 20. So the best way to do it is start to eliminate the U.S.
This is a
area.
reminder. Tariffs.
Oh, well, the tariffs, we're at one deal. So we're not, one tariff
This
deal.
is a reminder.
United Kingdom.
Tariffs.
They're out in Switzerland negotiating with China. He already said, the 145 not going to budge. Now he says, 80 would be good for China. China has conceded nothing. Zero to the U.S. They put retaliatory tariffs, and so we'll see. It's a tough negotiation. Don't get me wrong. The energy ETF XLE. Oh, this is an ugly chart. This is what I call almost like a shotgun, but it's a downtrend shotgun. It's shooting down at the ground, and oil prices are low. Everybody. I still remember people asking, it's going to go to $100. No, it went down to 58, 56. Exxon, a little bit better than last quarter. Devon, big jump. EQT, big jump on revenues and stuff. And I was looking, and I was thinking, man, what did they do? Enbridge, another slightly bigger jump, but I thought Enbridge bought somebody, but I'm blurring it because I don't follow Enbridge. But it's a mixed sector. You got to remember, Exxon, a lot of money they make. You got to remember, you got to buy companies that make a lot of money, and they're not going to be bad. They pay dividends, and remember, Exxon can make money at $50 a gallon. $50 a barrel. So it's not so bad. Another one that might be a casualty we might get out of Southwest, which is our gas company, been flat again. I think trade a flat stock going sideways in a sector that's flat, go into a foreign equity ETF. So just giving you the heads up on the thinking in there. We take a look at the heat map. Google was the one that got hit. They're under DOJ investigation. They want search split off from the other stuff that's in there, and search is going down as AI is being a search. Because I use AI for search. I don't use Google because I ask very specific questions. So my queries on issues have probably gone from, let's say, 95% Google from 3 years ago to maybe 75. AI's picked up a lot of the slack on this. And if you morph AI into search applications and can you check the best deals, now it's going to really hit Google. And remember, we got, Grok, and we got ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude and Meta AI, and Meta's pretty good. So, you could see that diminished area, and search is the big revenue for Google, but gotta remember, Google's got AI. Gemini, I use it all the time. I like Gemini probably the best of all of them. ChatGPT, they're right up there, 1 and 2. So I don't think it's going to be as bad as somebody says, because it's not like you have search and no AI. You have both, and it's just a matter of who comes up with something new and everything else. And I thought Google Veo, where I can make a small video from just saying what I want, that's pretty good. That's pretty good, and it's part of your monthly payment of $20 a month. So yeah, you know, Google's been the hit. Lily, of course, is 10% down. Jeez, you know, thought we bought it at cheap, and it's just having trouble. But you know, again, they're going good. You know, a lot of concern. All the healthcare. Look at this red. They don't know what the Department of Health and Human Services and Kennedy's going to do. They're at issue. They don't know what the vaccines are going to be doing. No more artificial dyes. You know, a lot of stuff. You know, after Warren announced he retired, people sold the stock. You know, he's not retired yet, but they're getting out of it, taking the money in. And then, of course, Palantir took a big hit because, you know, I mean, the price to earnings is so crazy. So it's been a kind of a choppy week. You know, I call this choppy. I mean, you know, of course, you know, we did well with NVDA and a little bit on some other stuff, but overall, kind of a tougher week, and I think we'll do better next week. But we're going to start moving in. We're going to start getting rid of some of the stocks. We're going to underweight certain sectors. We'll always keep the best in each sector, and sometimes it's easy to pick the best, but probably transportation, drop another healthcare, and everything else. All right, I know it's been a long show, but we had a lot of earnings, a lot of stuff to talk about, and I will see you next week.